Hello there, my name's Tim Walter. I'm a house healer and an alternative life coach. Welcome to the channel. This is where we cover the middle ground between everyday normal objective thinking that we all share and individual personal spiritual aspects of the esoteric. In this video we're going to talk to Adrian Incledon-Webber. He's not only a friend, he's also author of the hugely popular book Heal Your Home, and has sold thousands of copies both in the UK and USA. So here we are in conversation, and we started off just talking about how we actually met. And like all of these stories, the hand of the universe was ever present. If I explain for those people watching how we met.
Okay, how did we meet? Well, we met through a mutual friend of ours called Nigel Twin. At Megalithomania in Glastonbury many moons ago, and I don't know how many years ago it was.
It would have been 2010, wouldn't it? Because it was when Hamish had died.
That's right, he just died,
so
didn't he?
Died, yeah.
And it was a Sunday morning, my wife was away, and I was going to have a nice quiet lie in bed and just get up and have a sort of leisurely cup of tea and read my book. And about 7 o'clock in the morning, I got a prod from somebody, obviously upstairs, to say, kind of, get yourself in the car and drive down to Glastonbury and go and meet Nigel, which I then did. And so there was Nigel at the door, and there was this strange fellow called Tim Walter that happened to be there, and got chatting to him. Obviously had the Hamish connection anyway. So yeah. I think a couple of weeks later he came down, cup of tea, and that was really it.
Yeah, it went from
love
there.
Love at first sight.
It was love at first sight. I actually thought when I met you, you were the guy organising Megalithomania.
Oh, I see, right.
Yeah, a little did I know that actually, of course, it's
That's
huge,
obviously why you were so nice to me, was it?
Of course, yeah, I'm never nice to anybody I meet. We talked about Hamish there just for a second, but obviously, you know, he was a massive mentor of mine. I just want to say that I've learned a lot from you. And you know, there's no question about that at all. And we've written a book together. Yeah. So we've written Spirit and Earth. Yep. Jasper's joining in there. And Spirit and Earth was really a collection of the information that we were putting across in a lot of the workshops that we were doing together, wasn't it? Over the course of years.
But it was more than that somehow. You know, I think with the Hamish connection, you know, he was certainly instrumental in. I think if it hadn't been for Hamish and also with Billy Gorn, the Earth Energies wouldn't be where it is today. And okay, we've moved on quite a lot from that stage, and I think we had to. But, you know, there has to be a grounding there somewhere, and I think what a lovely character to actually learn from. You know, very humorous, very humble, just a great guy. And, you know, the book came together quite well, I think, in the end, but there's so much more information in there than there was in the course notes. I mean, the course notes were long enough.
Yeah, they were.
Tome in itself, but that, I think, gave us both the confidence to be able to put the book together. And it's still interesting, I know, even though with the book we've tried to do it in such a way as that it doesn't look like Tim's done this bit and Adrian's done this bit, but people who know us can still say, you did that bit, didn't you, Adrian? Did I? I can't remember now, but I think I probably did. But it was really nice to actually be able to bring the scientific approach that you so enjoy, and some of the weird and wacky stuff that kind of I enjoy, because I don't really understand a lot of the new scientist stuff. I do read it and think, no, I can't.
Yeah, it's kind of you to say the science stuff that I enjoy, but there's a big difference between sort of reading something and thinking that I understand it and thinking that I see a connection, and actually. From, you know, if a scientist walked in the room now, they would just say, "Well, come on, guys, this is not science that you're dealing with." But I think that there's what I like to do, as you know, is to try to get as much of the logical connections going as possible into the energy healing work, which is what it is. And I think the book is really goes a long way to help people understand that they can actually start to sort of effect change in their lives, really, which is what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
And they don't have to follow like a massive sort of structured, you know, almost like a religion to actually do some of this stuff.
Yeah, I think that's part of the big problem with, and if you look at the word spirituality, for instance, you know, what does it mean? There's so many different things to so many different people. So I think with the book, hopefully, it gives people a lot of scope to be able to pick bits out and go, yep, that makes sense, that makes sense, that makes sense, without going too weird and wacky and without going too scientific. And obviously we've got Paul Geary's work in there as well with was it the mind mapping. That hopefully goes some way of perhaps becoming a little bit more acceptable to perhaps so many more of the skeptics out there.
I think that we're always, anybody that's working in energy work is always going to come up against the cynic and those that have not had the experience of something changing or some influence in their lives that really has to be put down to what we call energy. Now, energy is a very, very fluffy term.
It is.
So it's just something that is, from their point of view, is something that isn't scientific. Now, we mentioned Paul Geary there a little bit earlier on. And, of course, Paul is a classic because he started off as being a cynic, a logical, thinking, objective, there's nothing in this dowsing.
Yeah.
And look at him now.
Yes. Yeah, that is a lovely story that he went along to Devon Dowsers to rubbish it completely, to say dowsing cannot possibly work. Somebody gives him a pair of dowsing rods, he walks across the room, they cross, and that's it. How to turn a skeptic to a believer in some ways. I think living a spiritual life is very difficult for a lot of people. They don't fully understand it, and I can't say that I fully understand it either. But it's really just trying to have that connection, perhaps more of a connection with Mother Earth, more of a connection with people as well, to be able to empathise with them. If there's more empathy in the world, then it would be a much better place.
I completely agree with you that it's about reframing the way that you live your life and accepting things that actually are inexplicable, but they have influence. There are things that occur, and the fact that there is still something that people are drawn to, despite centuries of science. The ordinary, terrible term again, one that I hate, the ordinary man or woman in the street finds energy work and let's say spirits and this sort of thing, elementals. There's an attraction there. People are drawn to it, and it's not just about with spirits. It's not something about that's spooky. Although some people unfortunately do have that experience. But they're drawn to something, so there's definitely something in it, and we're connected in some way to that kind of subtle environment, right? So, but what I think is really interesting is that you, the reason that you're doing the work that you do is because you want to help people.
Absolutely.
And it's a modality, house healing that you do is a way of helping people, and it's misleading to a certain extent that we call it house healing. Because it's not strictly about just working with the house.
No, it's not.
I've learned a hell of a lot from you, but tell me a little bit about the way that you kind of got into the house healing.
Well, the house healing, I think, as you rightly say, house healing, it's very much more about people healing. You've got to be able to not just heal the environment, you've got to be able to heal or work on the family as well. To me, it was always, back in my old estate agency days, that you'd walk into certain people's houses and you just get this most weird feeling. Now, the telltale signs are one toothbrush up in the bathroom, when obviously it was a family house. The husband's moved out or the wife's moved out, those signs were there. But there was almost like a tangible atmosphere. You'd walk in there, you kind of walk into this wall of hate or this wall of distrust or wall of despair. And over the years, they were the kind of houses that would rarely ever sell, or they would sell, but you'd have to reduce the price all the time until it got to such a level that it looked such a bargain that people couldn't turn them down. But of course, that house would then come on the market again and again and again. You've got the divorce houses that come on every 3 years. And for me, it was really, an estate agency was helping a lot of people as well. I know a lot of people don't understand or would probably rubbish what we were doing, but you became a bit like a Marjorie Proops figure. It wasn't just finding a buyer for the house. It was all the work in the background, trying to smooth the paths out for people to try and make it as easy as it possibly could be to actually exchange, complete, and then move. And it wasn't really until towards the end of the years of running the business that I was doing a lot of healing work. And just one day I looked at it and thought, well, if I can work on this person in my house, which is nice and safe and secure, how long is that healing going to last when they move back to their house where a lot of the environmental problems were? So could I then work on the house as well? And luckily upstairs were listening to me at the time, and I got this yes. Whether that was me saying yes in my own mind, forcing me forward, I don't know. But it was really then a way of being able to not just help the people, but also to work on the house. But working on the house as a house healer gives you that stealth approach, because a lot of people would say, if they approached you and said, look, we want you to do healing work on the family, they can be quite invasive. But I think with house healing, you look at it and go, it's a stealth way of being able to work on the people at the same time you work on the house.
So when you work on a house and a family, does everybody in the family know that you're kind of doing the work?
No, it is that classic comment that a lot of times I work for the lady of the house, and you're obviously worried about the children not sleeping, or the husband stressed from work, or domestic issues, all the problems. So often the comment I get is, can you work on the house without my husband knowing? Because if he knew, I'd probably be committed or locked up. So it also brings you around to the permission bit, that which I think a lot of people would say, well, do you not have to ask permission from the whole family to work on them? So as you do when you do your healing work, it's very much throwing it up to upstairs to say, let the healing be appropriate, for whatever's right for the family, what's beneficial for the family, to actually get that healing work done by allowing spirit to decide what needs to be done.
Yeah.
We can influence things, obviously, but, spirit, I think, is really what it's all about.
Yeah, so spirit, Jasper has been quite active. So spirit is like the general term for what you feel you interact with. I refer to spirit as well. I also call it the management, the way that Hamish did, or your man or whatever however relevant they are at that particular time. Yep. So spirit guides. That is really what you're talking about there when you talk about spirit.
Yeah, it is. It's difficult because if you start mentioning words like God, it brings in that sort of the religious side of things, which I think is it's been so difficult over the years. Religion has been part of many people's deaths over the years. So it's nice to perhaps look at it in a slightly different way. So for me, the highest of the high is probably the best way of looking, whoever it may be, and then just working with them. And I hope it's them. I guess really until we sort of finally pass over and go up there, then we might get up there and think, oh heavens, it wasn't them. It was, it was Mr. Morris Minor, whoever it may be. I don't think it is, but
No, I think in all, not in all seriousness, but I mean, joking aside, when part of the reason that the house healing work affects a change for a family and improves a lot of a family is because of your faith. Or our faith, or whoever the operative is. Again, another word I hate is healer.
Yes.
Because it's daft, but let's use the label. So the faith of the healer in something else, something bigger than ourselves, is a crucial part of it. And
absolutely.
you're talking about the highest of the high there. I think from my point of view, actually doing the healing work. The house healing work has actually strengthened my belief in something greater than us, and sort of positioned us as a reality or a dimension, effectively. And I know you always used to get frustrated by the fact that I would be kind of doubting things and just saying, step by step, everybody that kind of gets on this path and starts to learn to douse and usually is taken into a healing modality of some kind.
Sure.
They are taken through a learning process, which, gently, each thing that you come across is just at the right level to kind of take you on a little bit without overwhelming somebody.
Yes.
Or we hope, usually that's the case.
They do forget that bit sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah, there are sometimes.